The starting place, even before we start to talk about that routine of doubling up your time with people, the starting place is always clarify expectations. Always, always, always. But that's the number one job of any leader, is for her or him to clarify expectations. So your expectations, everyone's expectations have just reset. Don't assume it's just business as usual. It's not. So have the conversations to talk about what are the main priorities for people to focus on given this unusual circumstance. How you want people to kind of interact with each other and with you, even down to the level of what does responsiveness need to look like, and then check with them on what are their own personal needs. What's their home life looking like? So setting expectations is kind of the first step. So I would want to make sure you really address that. Version. So you can see me in my lovely office. I cleaned up a little bit of it for you, not much. There's piles all in front of me. And I've got my fantastic producer and host, Whitney Mendoza, with us today. Whitney, where are you? I'm taking it you're at your home.
We are at home, and we rearranged the entire home. This is not how we normally watch TV, with our backs facing it.
True. But see, you've got the nice leadership lunch banner up.
We do.
And so if you're watching this, if you're on the East Coast, this is lunchtime. And so the idea of this was, we were talking about this the other day. We said, well, so many people are doing live broadcasts. Yeah, that's Sweet Pea sitting on the couch.
She is.
I'm super jealous that Sweet Pea's there and I'm here. Sweet Pea and I have this little thing. So I'm bummed that she's over there. But anyway, we were talking about this and we said, well, two things. First, like, why not just do something more live where folks, since everyone's at home, if you got questions or, you just want to throw out some ideas, we could keep it more like an open forum like that. So our plan is to do this every Friday. Every Friday, leadership lunchtime, if you're on the East Coast. If you're on the West Coast, it's the beginning of your day. So it's also a good time. And if your days are like mine, every day is the same, and every time seems pretty much the same. So it doesn't really matter when we do this. And so the idea behind today is really just kind of an open conversation about kind of how are you surviving or thriving, maybe, in working from home. And then I also told Whitney right before we started, she said, well, what do you really want to talk about today? And I never got a chance to answer her question. One of the things I want to talk about today is all my coaching work is still going on, just like it has been.
Yep.
And so there's been a lot of conversations I've had over the last week, just talking to folks about what they're trying to do to keep themselves healthy, but most importantly, for the folks that are managing teams, what are the things you need to be thinking about to keep your teams connected, focused, feeling supported, all those sorts of things, because we've got a lot of commotion in our life, even if you're used to working from home. Several of my clients, they work from home. This is normal. But what's not normal is now they've got their 2 kids and their spouse also working from home. So it's a little bit of a different world. So that's kind of the setup and purpose of our conversation today, and that's really what it is. And so we're using a platform called StreamYard. So unfortunately, using that platform, I can't see people's comments, but I know Isaac can. So Isaac, Whitney, if people want to comment or ask a question or throw something out there for us to chat about, what's the best way for them to do that?
For sure. So we are live on both LinkedIn and Facebook. So anyone can go on both of those platforms and comment. And Isaac and I are both actively monitoring as things come in there. So we're on Facebook Live and LinkedIn Live on Brandon's pages.
And Emily said, this will be fun on Facebook.
Emily Smith said this will be fun. Creative producer of the Workplace Therapist Show.
Said this will be fun. Is that what she said?
Yes, she did. So, I concur.
Am I bringing the fun? Is that who's bringing the fun?
It was definitely not Sweet Pea. Nope, not on this show, because she's out.
Sweet Pea's clearly bringing the fun.
Yeah, and she's actually been much more calm on your show. I mean, you really do have a way with her. I will say that.
I told you. I wasn't joking.
She listens to you better than anyone.
I know she does.
Okay.
So, all right. Whitney, you and I have not, and Isaac, we have not gotten to talk about what you've been doing with your team.
Yeah.
So maybe a starting place. Tell me and tell us, what have you done to kind of figure out how to keep things moving along?
Sure.
And you can't necessarily go into the studio with everybody well, we could to a degree, but it really would not be a wise decision. So how have you been doing that?
Right. So typically as a team, we always have our team calls on Wednesdays. And so we kept that this week. We were all on Zoom. So it very much looked like the Brady Bunch because it was like 14 of us on Zoom at the same time. But what we did differently this week, as opposed to other weeks, typically what we'll do is we'll go through and we'll kind of touch on each client and maybe some roadblocks or items that people are waiting on to, either get projects done or move them to the next step. And instead of keeping it all business, this week, what we did is we kind of went round robin and asked everyone, how you doing and what are you doing? So what's a good show that you've watched or a movie that you've been wanting to see and you haven't had the opportunity, but you do now? Books you're reading, things like that. How are you surviving this quarantine time? So that was a lot of fun that we did. And then we're connected through Slack. So the Ligers are constantly on Slack. And so we're all the time sending each other either funny messages or memes that are going around, things like that. So we're keeping in constant contact that way. But I enjoyed having that FaceTime with everyone on Wednesday.
Yeah, and you've got folks on your team. Some folks are probably just in an apartment by themselves.
Yes.
Some folks are probably living with family members. Some have kids.
Yep.
So you've got kind of a wide variety of different family setups.
Yeah, we do. And it's interesting because everyone's handling it a little bit differently. Speaking of memes, there was one that went around that said, introverts have been planning for this their whole lives, but the introverts should be checking in on the extroverts because the extroverts are having a really hard time right now.
Yeah, they are, aren't they? Yeah, I gotta get myself to a Starbucks right now.
Yeah. Someone please talk to me. Yeah. Other than myself. Some of us are starting to hear voices at this point.
It's funny. So talking to all my clients, their biggest challenge, partly it's been their teams, and I want to talk a little about that today, and just offer some tips and ideas.
Sure.
But the other part, honestly, they said it's more about their family.
Right.
So I've got one client, he said, I was talking to him yesterday, he said, when we moved into this house, I set up a game room for my son, and it's downstairs, it's painted in like neon and blue and orange and all these different colors. He said, and I go down there at 7 a.m., and I was down there until 8 p.m., just working.
Yep.
The only distraction was my kids would open the door, slide in food, and close the door.
Right.
But then the real challenge, from what I've been hearing, is are the clients that have kiddos under 4 years old.
Yeah.
Because there's no daycare, and so you can't just leave a 4-year-old or a 3-year-old or a 2-year-old to entertain themselves. It requires man-to-man defense for sure. And so they've got to swap off with their other partner and figure out, am I going to work in the morning and then you work in the afternoon, or how's that going to work?
Yeah.
So it's definitely been disruptive to people's lives for certain.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So
I haven't had as much of that other than since I've got 3 teenagers, but they're all figuring out how to work. And the part that's been a little more disruptive for me is they can work on their own schedule.
Right.
Because it's all online activities that are due at a certain point.
Yeah.
So imagine how a teenager would choose to work. Sleep until 11 a.m.
Yep.
Decide to start doing work at about 11:30 p.m.
Then it's time for lunch.
And then do it again.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, I guess that's how we're going to do that.
Yeah, yeah. So, we're getting a couple of questions on LinkedIn, and I'm going to take the one first that's kind of in relation to what we're talking about now, which is how do we structure our time? Are there best practices, knowing that this is a little bit different and we're all having to be graceful with one another and do that take turn schedule perhaps? So what are your suggestions for that, Brandon, on still maybe putting some things in place that feel like it's a normal day? What do you suggest on that?
Yeah, so I can give you some general principles around this. So when you think about uncertainty, what makes us super uncomfortable is just unknown, unpredictability. And so if we say, what's the antidote to that? Predictability.
Yeah.
Unknown. So it doesn't really matter what structure you create for your family or for your life, but you need, or for your teams for that matter, but you need some structure. So, pick a time you're going to get up every day, get up at that time. I would recommend, since you've got your family there, have lunch with your family, or at least dinner with your family for sure. In our house, what we've been doing is we haven't necessarily been having a lot of meals together because, as I've said, teenagers are at different schedules. But we've been having dinner together every night, and then we've been doing game night every night.
Nice.
So last night it was playing horse in the backyard, shooting baskets. It was cornhole, it was Monopoly, and card games. So we did a lot of games last night.
Did you say playing horse?
Cornhole.
Cornhole. I was like, playing horse in the backyard. How does that work?
No, we did play horse. We played horse too. Horse.
What is horse?
Basketball.
You shoot baskets, and then when you miss one, you get a letter, and the first one who spells the word horse is out. Have you not ever played horse?
That is not what entered my mind. Not what entered my mind.
So I think the key is pick a structure, pick a routine, and try and stick to it. Now, what's also going to be weird is, for some of us, this is the first week we've been kind of in this sequestered kind of world. So we're coming up on a weekend.
Yes.
Which I don't anticipate being any different than today, frankly, or yesterday. So I think that's going to be very strange because we don't have the natural break of a weekend where it's like, oh, we sleep in and we do a different routine. Not really. We may not work as much, but then again, we might just because it's something to do. So I do think routines are going to be really important. Now, one more important thing you're also kind of reminding me of. So if you've got pets, make walking your dog a part of the routine too.
Yep.
Because they need the exercise, and that's a good way for you to get a break and exercise. So we need to be thinking about, when are we getting up? When are we exercising? Meals, and how we can do that with our family, and then use this as a great opportunity to kind of reconnect with our family.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So those are the ingredients you want in your routine. Just figure out a way to put that in place.
Yeah.
That kind of works for you and your family. And give yourself a lot of grace. You're not going to figure this out on day one. If you try and write a rigid routine that's hour by hour on day one, you're going to be really disappointed.
Yeah.
It's not going to go that way.
It's
so
great.
Give yourself some time to kind of naturally have this evolve. But we need routines in times of uncertainty. And the other thing I would add to this too is you want to don't treat this as, oh my gosh, this could be the new normal going into the summer. No, just treat it as we're going to try this. This is a kind of a 2-week sprint. We're going to do this for 2 weeks, stop, evaluate, and then look again for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So treat it in bites rather than kind of going on in perpetuity. Because there will be an end to this. We just don't know when.
Do you think when things go back to normal that companies are going to encourage more work from home days during the week? Because something that I think is interesting, and I know like there are going to be reports that are going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks of did productivity actually increase because everyone has been home? Yeah,
so I'm going to kind of lean on a little piece of research from the American Psychological Association. So they say, one of the ways you can build resilience, we can all build resilience, and this is a time for us to build resilience. Resilience comes through change, particularly comes through difficulty and change. One of the ways we can build resilience is look for situations like this as an opportunity to learn. And so this is a great opportunity. Let's figure out how we can learn how to operate a little more remotely. When I was doing a workshop last week in San Francisco for a group of leaders, it's for a company that doesn't normally do a lot of virtual work. And one of the reframings one of the managers wants to use with his associates is to say, you know, you all want to work remotely. Well, let's prove to the company we can be successful working remotely. Mm-hmm. So if we can be successful doing this, yeah, I think a lot of companies are going to do that.
Yeah.
And go to kind of giving more time. You know, when I see companies that do it well, they typically give people Fridays and Mondays off. That's the days you can work remotely, with the idea that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is when you need to come into the office to have the important face-to-face meetings.
Yeah, I love that.
And what you're also going to see is companies realizing very quickly that they're behind the curve on technology and finding ways to get up to speed to be able to leverage, whether it's Slack or it's Zoom or other kinds of tools to allow workers to function a little more better remotely. Totally. You're going to an opportunity to prove you can do it.
Awesome. Okay, I want to take it back to another question that we had come through, and this was kind of reverts a little bit back to what we were discussing at the top of the hour, but how often should we be meeting face-to-face on Zoom and platforms like that while we are all quarantined and working from home in this moment? So let's say if the next 2 weeks, 15 days, they said don't leave the house, how often should we then be joining on Zoom and just kind of seeing everyone face to face and checking in?
Okay, really simple prescription. Twice as much as you would normally.
Love it. Okay.
Twice as much as you would normally. That's it.
Okay.
It's that simple and that hard. So as a manager or a leader, you've got to be really intentional about scheduling twice as much time. Because all the informal conversations where someone would pop their head in your office or in your cube and ask you a question, they're not going to do that. So you got to create space for that. So you need to be meeting twice as often. And so I'm encouraging managers in particular to think about scheduling these 4 activities into their. I'm putting my trying to put my 4 there. There's my 4.
Nice.
There's my 4.
Nice.
So naturally, your one-on-ones. You want to make sure you're doing your one-on-ones that you're already doing, and probably twice as many of those a week. And those are really about what's going on from a work perspective. Let's talk about your projects. What can I be doing to help you? All that good stuff. Your team meetings. I would double those up for sure to make sure everybody's aligned. Alignment's going to be really important with everyone working out of their house. Then there's 2 new ones that I want you to put in. Sweet Pea likes my list. She just popped her head up.
She woke up.
So I'm encouraging managers to put in office hours in their calendar.
Nice. Okay.
It can be once a day or it can be 1 day a week, but you can put in some office hours. Like I'm available between 11 and 1 every day. I'm not going to schedule anything. I'm just going to be working. And if you've got a question, hop on Zoom or shoot me an email or whatever.
Yeah.
To create a little more space. And then lastly, I'm encouraging managers to do 1 informal check-in call a week with each direct report. No agenda. This call is simply, hey, Whitney, I was thinking about you. I just want to call and check in and see how you're doing.
Love that.
That's it. I've got a client of mine yesterday. He naturally just was doing this with one of his teams is in Indianapolis. And he called one of the people on that team yesterday and checked in, and they said, I can't believe you're calling me. That's so awesome. He's like, well, yeah, of course I'm calling you. Like, I really care. I'm checking in.
Yeah.
That helps people to not only have a place to talk about any concerns or questions, but they feel supported and they feel like you care.
Yeah.
So in short, double your time you're spending with your team and then do those kind of 4 activities. One-on-ones, team meetings, office hours, and then informal check-in calls.
Yeah.
And that will kind of fix and prevent any potential misalignment or missteps.
That makes me think of another question. What are you encouraging leaders, CEOs to say when their employees are coming to them asking them, how safe is my job?
Yeah, so it's too early to tell. It's way too early to tell, so I wouldn't even answer that question if I was a CEO or leader. I would say, I wouldn't answer in a way that would be construed as potentially negative or creating any more uncertainty than there already is.
Yeah.
I would say, right now, we are moving business as usual. And then the other real gift that a CEO or leader can give is don't say, do not do this. Do not say, well, we're just going to wait and see, and sometime down the road, this thing will all change. Don't do that. Don't do that. We are going to take this in 2-week increments. So for the next 2 weeks until April 1st, I want you just kind of operating business as usual. Then we're going to stop, evaluate, see where we're at, and then we'll come up with a new game plan for the next 2 weeks, if we need to do that.
Yeah.
But we're just taking it in 2-week increments. And that 2-week increments, it immediately lowers anxiety and uncertainty because people say, oh gosh, I can do that.
Yeah.
I had a client of mine tell me several years ago, she said, I think anybody can do something as long as they know when it's going to end.
Right.
So it's like run a marathon, 26.2 miles.
Right.
You know it's going to end at 26.2 miles.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You're just saying run until you drop. No one really wants to do that.
That's good.
So I think give an endpoint to lower anxiety and try and be as positive as you can, and avoid creating any more uncertainty that's already in the mix.
Yeah.
Kirsten has a question on Facebook.
Yes.
What are some tips you'd suggest for distinguishing workspace in the home to not still feel on the job once our office hours finish for the day?
Ooh, that's good. Did you get that, Brandon?
No, say it again.
So what are some ways that we can differentiate kind of home space and office workspace in the home? So like if we're in home, almost like that brain shut on and off, what are some ways we can differentiate? Okay, this is my workspace and then this is home space.
So the obvious answer, let's start with the easy answer. The easy answer is you pick a room and you say, this is my office for the next however long.
Okay.
It can be the guest bedroom, it can be the workout room, it can be the game room, the laundry room. It doesn't have to be a big space, it just needs to be a space you dedicate for that. That assumes you have an extra room you can do that with.
Yes.
If you don't have that, then I would probably recommend picking the space that is going to allow you to feel the most focused.
Okay.
Whatever that is. And so for our extroverts, it might actually be a common area. So my daughter, Abby, who I will definitely bring on the show in the next couple of weeks because why not? She's like right around the corner.
Yeah, yeah.
She is admitted, well, I don't, whether she admits it or not, she is a huge extrovert. She has to be around people. So you're not going to find her working in her room with the door closed. You're going to find her up on the kitchen table, up on near the kitchen counter, like in the middle of all the activity.
Yeah.
So find what allows you to kind of work the best and be focused, given your life situation. If you've got 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds hanging out, it may be hard to do that. But just kind of find the space that's going to give you the most kind of focus. And then it goes back to my comment earlier, and then be structured, okay? So one of my clients that I work with is a company that is all virtual. They have 450 employees. They'll have more than this at the end of this year. And they are all virtual all over the globe.
Wow.
Every continent, and everyone works out of their home office. So this is really, they have the tools and the rhythms already set up for this. But the consistent issue with all my clients is because they're all virtual and work out of their homes, they work crazy hours.
Yeah.
Because there's no natural beginning and end. It's not like I get in the car, I drive to work, I leave at 5 o'clock, I drive, they're just at home working. So you really want to make sure you're conscious and intentional about what hours you're going to work, when you're going to take those walk breaks with your dog, when you're going to have lunch or dinner, when you're going to carve out time for your family. So structure is going to be really important, particularly if you have a space that is a common area where you want to work.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So what are some other kind of questions that have been coming your way, Brandon, maybe in different industries? What are some of the other maybe struggles that are popping up? Or, on the flip side of a lot of this, there have been a lot of industries that have become overly busy, right? So like I'm going to go big scale here, but like Amazon just came out and said that they're going to hire 10,000 more people to be able to help backfill all the online orders that are coming on.
Yeah. So I'm going to take this on in two ways. I'm taking on for the general person, okay, regardless of industry.
Okay.
The starting place, even before we start to talk about that routine of doubling up your time with people, the starting place is always clarify expectations. Okay. Always. But that's the number one job of any leader, is for her or him to clarify expectations. So your expectations, everyone's expectations have just reset. Don't assume it's just business as usual. It's not. So have the conversations to talk about what are the main priorities for people to focus on given this unusual circumstance. How you want people to kind of interact with each other and with you, even down to the level of what does responsiveness need to look like, and then check with them on what are their own personal needs. What's their home life looking like? So setting expectations is kind of the first step. So I would want to make sure you really address that.
Okay.
Now, to your question around issues and challenges that have come up, when I do have clients that are in situations where their business is booming because there's a lot more demand for their particular products or services that they provide during this time. And in the case of products that require people to deliver them, their challenge is a lot of their folks are worried about delivery. Like, I don't really, some are comfortable working, some are not comfortable working in this space. So I think that's the part that you've got to be really sensitive to. You may have employees, whether we're talking about healthcare or some kind of distribution or supply chain. I mean, we need or grocery. I mean, we need all these folks to still be comfortable working. So a lot of your time is going to be spent as more of an energy manager. And that's part of the job of any leader, is being an energy manager. And so, when times are kind of crazy and uncertain, there's a lot of chaos or anxiety. Your job is to be like the calm voice, the calm person, kind of calms everyone down, helps them focus, helps them feel comfortable about what they're doing. At the same time, honoring the fact that they're not comfortable, don't feel safe. Give them an avenue for that, whether that's take vacation time or sick time or paid leave or whatever. But you want to make sure you give an avenue for that. You don't want to make anybody work that's not comfortable working. That's not good protocol at all. But calming people down that are anxious is really important. Now, there's not during this time, but there's definitely times when you have to do the opposite. As I had a client of mine tell me years ago, sometimes you need to light a fire in people, and sometimes you need to light a fire under them.
Yeah.
So there's times when you got to now take someone who's too calm and light fires in. But that's probably not right now.
We have a
right
comment on Facebook.
So I think that's an important piece too, is being able to recognize that, you need to check in and make sure everyone's comfortable with what you're asking them to be doing.
Yeah. All right, so we're getting a couple more questions coming in online. I'm going to take this one from Sarah first on LinkedIn. So she's asking, great question. What if being away from the office environment has put into perspective what I want for my career? And more specifically, what I don't want after things go back to normal?
Yeah. So it's early to tell around that. I think here's some things I would tell everybody to start to notice. Notice how you feel. Notice, do you feel your anxiety has gone up or your anxiety has gone down? I've actually noticed in some ways my anxiety has gone down. Partly because I've realized when I get anxious, a lot of it is tied to in-person work. When I'm doing work with teams, when I'm doing big sessions or speaking engagements, I get more anxious around that because I want to do a good job in those performance settings. It's a lot easier to do coaching calls and not feel that level of anxiety. So I've noticed a lot of my anxiety's gone down. You may have noticed your anxiety's gone up because you're stuck at home and you feel trapped or you don't feel like you're able to do what you want to do. So there's no right or wrong answer to this other than notice. Notice how you feel. That's the therapist in me coming out. Notice how you feel and try and correlate that to what's changed. I think that's a part of it.
Okay.
And then I'd also say to this, one of the fun exercises I like to do is if you had your magic wand and you could wave it and change anything, what would you change? What are you missing? Because that will also help you kind of get a good sense of, you know, what maybe you're missing.
Yeah.
And maybe you're missing the in-person stuff, or maybe you're not. So
Okay.
again, it's a great opportunity to take a little reset and take an inventory about what really matters to you. The last thing I'd add to this is, you know, the workplace happiness formula always is a nice, simple anchor for this conversation. Workplace happiness is 3 things: right job, right culture, and right boss. So if we've got all 3 of those, you know, we're super happy. Well, Rainbow pops up, balls us to work every day. Pops up and balls us home. When we're missing one of those, that's when things, or 2 or 3, that's when things start to go south.
Yeah.
So that's another good way to look at this. You know, is it your job that's working? Is it the culture, the environment you're working in, and then in boss? So another way to kind of take that on. But I think that's going to be an interesting question for us to come back to over the next couple of weeks, because I would consider this week 1 as like, I'm just trying to reorient myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Week 2 is new normal, and then week 3 is either I like this or I don't. I don't think we're really going to get a good sense of how people are feeling about this until we get to about week 3, if it gets that long. And we'll just see.
For sure. All right, so one, from Maureen on Facebook. They're asking for advice for middle managers who bridge between the team that needs or has to work from home and now upper admins who have unrealistic or dated expectations about business as usual and how that can or cannot be done remotely. So how do we tackle that?
Yeah, so when we're having the conversation up, that's really a client management conversation.
Okay.
So you got to think of yourself as kind of a consultant, put on your consultant hat, and I've got to kind of advise my client and help kind of manage expectations and kind of rescope the project. So in other words, you got to go to your boss and say, okay, help me understand, what are your priorities? What do you really want to see get accomplished over the next couple of weeks? And then you go back and you say, okay, here are the resources and constraints. And constraints will be things like, half my team has children under 5. And so they are going to be doing a lot of caregiving during the workday. And so they will not have the 8 to 10 hours of capacity that they used to have. It's going to be more like 5 or 6. So we have limited now resources. Our resources have constrained. And so then you've got to be able to then go back to your boss and say, given that, here's what I think is realistic of what we can accomplish. So it's all about kind of managing that. But you've got to make sure you go back to them and say, here's how the resources and constraints have changed. So you may have had those expectations before, and it was great when we were all working together in the office, and there was childcare and other kind of support mechanisms, but now it's all hands on deck. And so we're going to have to reset what's realistic.
We have a question on LinkedIn.
Jasmine wanted you to please go through the workplace happiness formula again.
Okay, workplace happiness. Right job. So this is the job that kind of fits you like a glove. It matches your competencies, your skills, your interests. It's kind of that job description that we get when we apply for a job. Right job. Okay. Right culture. So this is your working environment. This is both the culture of the business or organization you're in. Also could be culture of the industry, because industries have certain cultures, and maybe even regional cultures. You prefer to work in the southeast, northeast, but culture. So kind of the vibe and the norms of the people you work with and around. You want to make sure those are as similar to you as possible, so you feel like you're kind of fits you like a glove. You don't want to feel like you're the weird one and everyone else is crazy. And then the third one is right boss. And the right boss is going to share or honor your values. So they're either going to have similar values or they're going to love the things that make you different. And they're going to really kind of honor that and not try and make you somebody that you're not. And that could be everything from honoring your work-life balance expectations to even how you approach work. So, and of the 3, boss is the most important. Because boss has control over the subculture and your job. They can change the job expectations, and they can also change the vibe of the team. So if you had to pick one that was the most important, it's right boss. But those are the three: right job, right culture, right boss.
Perfect. All right, do we have any other questions on Facebook?
I had a question.
Yeah.
How do you cultivate culture? Like now, so like was cultivating culture so important before, but how do you do it now? And if you haven't done it, how do you start?
Yeah. So Isaac's question is, how do you cultivate culture?
Well, this is a culture reset for every team. It could be a subtle reset, but it's still a reset. So culture is our identity, but it's also how we get stuff done. So my favorite definition of culture I've ever heard is culture is what happens when you're not around. So what it really defines is how do we want everyone on the team to operate when they're both working independently, but also with each other. So it's a great opportunity to have that question. How do we want to operate with each other in all this? If we have a question of each other, how do we want to approach it? What's our expectations around responsiveness? You know, if someone pings you, do you expect a response in an hour? 6 hours? I mean, and there's no right answer to this. It's just about asking those questions. And even what's the difference between me reaching out to you on email with a question, or texting you with a question, or leaving a voicemail with a question? Are there different priorities or urgencies to those? So it's all about kind of having those conversations around what do we expect from each other in terms of responsiveness, alignment, asking for help, getting things done, those kinds of conversations. So I think it's really healthy. I think Isaac's point's a great one. Really healthy time to have those cultural reset during this time. Totally.
Are there some things we can do for those that are experiencing maybe downtime? So not that work has gone away, but maybe their calendar has opened up a little bit more. So maybe they've got a couple of extra hours in the day. Are there some things, and what would those be, that we can use that time to kind of prepare when everything kind of goes back to normal, if we want to call it that?
Yeah. So folks that are who are feeling that the most are gig economy folks.
Yeah.
So folks that aren't maybe working full time, part time, or project based kind of work, they're going to see more downtime. And so, two ways to approach it: if they are working for one company, kind of a gig role, then you've got to figure out what can you do in that space, and we'll talk about that. If you've got multiple clients, you might want to circle back with your clients and see if there's anything they've got on the back burner that you could do for them. So you could kind of go into your, try to find a more updated term than Rolodex. Pardon my age.
Yeah.
Rolodex. You go into your Rolodex.
Right. Your contacts.
But I'll tell you, I think this is a fantastic time to be doing the stuff you've been putting on for a long time. So I often say to folks, you know, our default in normal times is firefighter. Everything's urgent all the time, and time's our most precious resource. So we're constantly reacting to demands. We never get to be proactive. And what really differentiates leaders from just being firefighters is carving out some time to focus on strategy. And I loosely define strategy as anything that's not firefighting. And so if you've been given that gift of time, that is an opportunity for you to be proactive and do something that is strategic.
Yeah.
Strategic could be write that book you've always wanted to write, redo your website, think about a new product or service offering you want to do.
Yeah.
Think about something that maybe you haven't had time to work on inside the company, but now you do, and you can address it. You can, rather than put a Band-Aid on something, you can actually go down and fix the root cause of a problem.
Yeah.
So don't sit back and wait to be told. Do not do that. Take initiative and ownership and say, wow, I got time. I'm going to go do some stuff that I've always wanted to do. So, you know, we had this conversation earlier this week, and I've always wanted to be able to do more live shows. I haven't had the time. Guess what? I've got the time.
Yeah.
So we're doing more show, which is great.
Yeah.
I've finished my first book. It's ready to be published. Of course, I'm pausing on that until this is done, but I'm going to start writing my second book. So I'm going to use this time to do that. And I've got several other things that I'm kind of working on. So I'm kind of excited for the space to be creative and build that I haven't had that opportunity. So, you know, time's our most precious resource, and you've been given that gift. Use it.
Nice.
And then I had a question, for the people that have been laid off the first sort of wave from like retail and restaurants, how is it a good time? What should be, do they need to reflect on what they need to do now, enjoy the time, or what should be the step?
Yeah, so Isaac's question
Yeah.
is, you got it?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, it would be disrespectful, I think, for me to say enjoy the time off when they're probably very nervous and concerned and worried.
Yeah.
I would say, just like anybody in the time of, I don't even want to use the term, but in the time of a recession, just like anyone in that situation, you want to create a structure to your day, and you want to have a structured job search. So don't sit back and just feel sorry for yourself. Use this time to reach out to people in your network, let people know kind of your situation, let people know that you're in the job market. So when something does open up, and you've really got to be intentional about keeping people aware of your need. And so you kind of turn on the marketing engine and really, let people know. Now, what I am hoping is true that I've been seeing and experiencing is I've been seeing a lot of people being really generous during this time to people that have been negatively impacted, whether that's individual workers or restaurants or, other kind of industries that are just not faring well in this. And so you never know who might help you. So, and I've already had several calls where people reach out to me and say, I'm in the market for a job and, we just want to let you know. Absolutely. I'm glad they did. So make it a routine, treat it like a job, treat your job search like a job. And, and you never know who can open the door for you.
Yeah. Are there signs that we as leaders should be aware of maybe, either it could be those around us or employees of ours that are struggling with this. So the struggling of maybe being a little bit more isolated, not being able to get out, or maybe they are, at home or apartment by themselves because they're, a young millennial.
Yeah. So here's the big thing. In absence of communication, people almost always assume the worst. Okay, so that's an important reminder for you. So if you're not hearing from an employee, in normal times, we might say, well, they're just an introvert and they've got it all taken care of, and that's great. Don't do that in this situation because it's a different world. So you really need to be really intentional about what I said earlier about making those informal check-in calls with every member of your team. One call a week, just check in and say, hey, I was just thinking about you. I'm going to check in and make sure you're okay. And then really listen close to how they sound. And if they don't sound good, say, hey, are you sure you're okay? Because it's really important to me that you are. And if you need something from me, please let me know. So I think it's really important that is done informally. Now, there's one other thing I've been prescribing. I've really been prescribing 3 big things to my clients. One is the clear expectations. The second one is around kind of doubling their time with their team. The third one ties into this question. And that is either at the end of every week or the end of every other week, set aside time as a team to just kind of do what military teams call after action reviews, emergency room teams call them postmortems, consulting teams and creative teams call them retrospectives, but just reflect on the last week or two and basically ask these 4 questions. So first, what's worked well? What's gone well in terms of how we've worked together? Second, what maybe surprised you and hasn't gone as well as you would have hoped? Third, what do you want to do differently next week? Or what should we be doing differently next week? And then lastly, as the leader, ask the question, what do you need from me? What can I be doing to support the team better next week? So if you take that and the informal conversation, you're hitting kind of both areas. You're addressing the individual and their needs, but you're also talking to the team about what may be going on. And you're creating space. And you're also letting the team, hey, I don't have all the answers. You're letting the team know that. I don't have all the answers. I'm in this like you are. We're figuring this out together. You're kind of inviting them to kind of co-author it with you, which is really what needs to happen because we're all figuring this out. No one really has a perfect answer for this.
Yeah. Well, I love this, Brandon. I'm glad that we're doing this new format every Friday at noon so that we can touch base and give updates and continue to answer more questions as they come through. Because again, I mean, this is a changing situation, and it seems like each morning when we wake up, we get a different update.
Yeah. So Whitney, the way you're saying that sounds like we're out of questions.
You know we're live. How you got to put me on the spot like that?
That's okay. I mean, that was the idea. This is not going to be a timed conversation. We're just going to hang out. There's a few things I want to make sure we talk about every week, but once we talk about that, address everyone else's questions, you know, then I think it's time for us to, end our lunch so that I can actually eat real lunch.
I was going to go there next. I was going to be like, actually, I'm just getting a little bit hungry.
My stomach has been growling this whole show. I'm surprised you haven't heard it. You probably thought it was sweet pea. No,
That's true. We're going to blame it on you.
I'm hungry.
Because you're sleeping, and we can do that.
Well, I would really be curious. So next week, I think we might spend some more time talking about some of the family dynamics.
Yeah.
And I'd be really curious what people have found to kind of work with their particular family situation. So be thinking about that for next week, everyone. And notice the weekend. I'm going to be really curious how the weekend kind of unfolds. Given that it's not really going to be like a weekend. It's not like you're going to go out and do weekendy kind of stuff. You're going to have to figure out ways to navigate in your own space. I saw someone post something yesterday, I think it was on Facebook, and they said, I'm planning my vacation, and they had a little map of like their apartment. Yep. And they were like planning what room they wanted to go to.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say an investment that Isaac and I made, like maybe the weekend before this all started happening, is we bought 2 new chairs and a little bistro table to have out on our balcony. And the weather has been beautiful, so that's been very nice. We've been escaping out there every so often to take in some fresh air. And Sweet Pea, likes to go on walks and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. Maybe in one of these future episodes, I will actually show you how to play horse.
I'm looking forward to that. And then I'll show you what I thought it was.
We have a comment on Facebook. Jenny loves what we're doing, the new setup. So
nice. So comment on Facebook. Jenny is watching, and she says she's really loving the new format. So
awesome. Great. Thanks, Jenny. Well, okay. So I guess that's probably it for today. I know we're definitely going to do this again, so you can put it on your calendar. We're going to do it again next Friday, every Friday at noon, for sure. And we'll likely work in some other conversations throughout the week. So be on the lookout for that. And my plan too is to bring in other folks for our conversation. So folks that are also working remotely, trying to juggle things, so they can share their experiences.
Yeah.
Even folks who might have another perspective on kind of what's going on around us, that could maybe give us a little more insight as to when this might actually end.
Perfect. And if anyone has questions on the in between, obviously they can direct message you on Facebook, LinkedIn, leave comments, and we'll be collecting those throughout the week. So.
Absolutely, Whitney's awesome. So glad you said that. Yeah, if you don't want to just share it live stream, or you don't know if you'll be available, but you want me to try and take it on, or have us take it on, or another person on our show take it on, you can actually direct message me on LinkedIn. You can email me at brandon@theworkplacetherapist.com. So many ways to kind of get it to us, and we will put it in the hopper and take it on our next show.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandon. This has been great. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Thanks, Whitney, for setting us up so fast. Isaac, well done. Awesome. Thanks, Sweet Pea, for all of your energy today. Oh, she popped up.
You hear that?
That's like she does.
Okay.
Okay, everybody. Well, I'm going to sign off. As I say at the end of every show, until our next show, have a great week and an awesome life.